Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of Run to the Hills, sponsored by Chia Charge. If you want to fuel your adventure with real food made with real ingredients, then head over to www.chiacharge.co.uk. Yo, Gaza, sup in the hood?
What's up in the hood? Oh, well, it's more 200s and 400s, Eddie. Surprise, surprise.
How are the hamstrings going? I tried a little bit of pace downhill today, and I was like, no.
Last week it was good. We did it on Tuesday. Schoolboy area, there's a road near where I live, call it the Road to Nowhere, and it's a mile long. So we did these 200 and 400s. Nice. We progressively got towards the end of it, but there was no lights there, so we were running in darkness. No, luckily there was no obstacles, so that was fine. But yeah, it was quite hairy. Chris and I did it, and it's always good to have company when you were doing those sessions. And it's about, call it repetition pace, which is about your mile pace. So in theory, it seems, yeah, you can manage
you
a
look
400
on paper and you think that shouldn't be, but
that 400, the 200 is fine. And then a nice 200 jog back. Then tonight we've got another 200s and 400s. But yeah, so that went well. I was pretty chuffed how that felt, because the previous week I wasn't hitting the pace as well. This week I wasn't hitting the paces, so that was good.
Awesome.
Sedgefield are still top of the league, Division 3, with one fixture to go, so that is pretty good.
I haven't seen this flash up on the BBC Sport app yet, but obviously it's going to be.
The Harrier League do a little kind of write-up after every fixture, and it said something about Sedgefield looking strong as they go into the last.
One to watch. I love it.
Yeah, and we've won funny enough, at Eagley Heads, when the initial results came out, we were second for that fixture. But for some reason, we're first now. So I don't know if the team who won have been disqualified, or I really don't know what's happened. But we had a clean sweep every one we've won. But I'm still a million miles off the medium pack. I needed to run probably 40 seconds faster for that, which is pretty much a 10K. And that's quite a lot over a 10K, 40 seconds. You need to finish in the top 10% to get promoted into the next pack. So I'm way off there. We did the long run, which was nice. I enjoyed that. I as a hangover from the cross country on Saturday, my legs, I felt so heavy, my legs, so it's supposed to be a marathon paced effort. But because I'm not really training for a marathon, I thought, well, a kind of traily paced run with the dog. Well, it was a cop-out, but it was fine. So that was nice. And on Thursday, which was great, was my first proper Zwift workout. The weather in England on the icy paths it just didn't make sense to go and kind of run fast on the pavements, really, to try and do this session. I think it was like 5 times a mile or something. So I chose to do it on Zwift. I did this FTP test, whatever it was, and then it was 2 times 15 minutes. So quite a long time in that zone. I hit the targets, but my heart rate never got to a level where I would say I was in threshold zone if I was running. So still working all that side of things out, but it was awesome. And that is where I just think whatever your cross training is, it could be rowing on a bike, on the treadmill, when the weather's not great. And I wasn't dodging it because it was horrible outside. It was just physically probably dangerous to do it. And it was just awesome for that. So really enjoyed that. And just trying to, I set myself a little, not a resolution, but Monday on a school night, no junk. And my head's still in Christmas mode, so I'm just hitting the heroes. Every time I go in the kitchen, and it's like January.
What's your hero of choice?
Oh, I do love a Snickers, little Snickers. I do like a little Snickers bar.
No, is it heroes that have the little Malteser ones?
Yeah, Maltesers in there too.
Those ones.
I do like that. But so I was just like, oh, Gary, you're not supposed to be eating this.
Had you forgotten that, as you'd already?
Yeah. I just so I'm trying to be a bit more mindful. This school night, no junk. Other than that, not much is going on. Oh, I went to the dentist, which is always fun.
I get the terrible jaw shakes, even when they're just looking in my mouth. And she's like, just relax. And I'm like, I don't know what
How can I relax?
How can I relax? It's honestly, it's my least favorite occupation of everything.
Well, as I left, he said, you know, he did say your teeth are amazing, which I thought was pretty nice. He said, don't eat any sugary foods. I'm like, oh, if only you knew what the runner puts in his mouth.
Did you ask him if he listened to Run to the Hills podcast?
No, I don't think he was a runner.
Doesn't matter, Gary. Remember, everywhere you go, spread.
I was terrified of the dentist for a long time. I think I had a really bad experience, and I probably didn't go to the dentist for maybe 15 years. But
me too. I reckon everyone's like that. When your parents stop taking you,
yeah.
So you're like, well, this is something I really don't enjoy. So now I'm an adult. I'm certainly not going to put myself through it. And then you start hitting your 30s and your teeth start falling apart. I've had terrible problems in my teeth because I had terrible morning sickness, like really bad. With my last, it was like I was being sick like 40 times a day. It was so bad.
Oh yeah.
So it rotted all the enamel on my teeth. And but then do you know as well? Then you get, I don't know if they still do this, but then you get free dental care because they're like, you've had such a terrible time with your teeth. And now, so when I had the baby, then I had to have like years of dental care to try and stop my teeth from crumbling. I know, it seems so bad, doesn't it? Jeez.
Pretty rough.
It's a rough ride I've had. Anyway, God, what a way we started this podcast with teeth problems. But if you're our age and you're a runner, you'll know that the other thing my dentist said is true. As soon as you've done your long run and you've hammered the tailwind and the gels, you should brush your teeth and if you're doing an ultra, you should brush your teeth like 100 miles. You should brush your teeth halfway through to get rid of the sugar.
I heard, while we're in right teeth admin here, I used to brush my teeth after my breakfast, but the dentist said do it as soon as you wake up, because when you eat, is it the acids in your mouth? So in effect, what you're doing is...
I like a freshen up after breakfast, ready to breathe.
You're brushing off that enamel because the acids, this is what he said.
Could be where I'm going. I bet there's a dentist listening.
Yeah, prove us wrong. Tell us what. So how are you doing, Eddie? You recovering okay?
I've survived. To anybody that doesn't know, last week I was hit hard by the COVID fairy. Oh, God, it's not pleasant, is it, Gary? It's not a pleasant experience. I mean, and I just kept saying, thank God. And I've had my booster quite recently. Yeah. I just kept thinking, thank God I had. Can you imagine how bad if I hadn't had...
so you're 3 jabs. You've had all 3.
I've had 3 jabs, and I had the 3rd one just before Christmas, and it still hit me, and it hit me pretty hard. I denied it perhaps for a few days because I wasn't very coldy. I was just like I had this like terrible chest pain, but I thought the minute I tell Bryn I've got this chest pain, he's going to get me that lateral flow up my nose. I was like, and I know what that's going to mean, and he's going to tell me to stop training. But I knew on Tuesday it was really raining, and so I was meant to do like a 3-hour ski. So I swapped it to Zwift and did a couple of hours bike, and then I went on the treadmill. And at the end of it, I felt fine and my heart rate was fine. But then at the end, I felt I had to have a lie down. I had a cup of tea and a Chia Charge bar in bed, and I was wiped out. And I thought, that's not normal. Yeah. And then Wednesday, I was doing the bins, and I had to actually get out of the van, and I couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh, I've got it, you super spreaders. Anyway, I had some really rough days. The worst bit was that I lost all taste and like feeling in my mouth. So I couldn't chew. And all I could face was tomato soup. And I've read another fact that we've read somewhere that's random that doesn't have any scientific fact, is that you can taste tomato because of the acid in it. And that's why, like, when you fly, lots of people drink tomato juice because of the altitude, because it's like the only thing that you can taste. And it was literally the only thing I tasted. So like 4 days, I had tomato soup and vanilla yogurt. Oh,
nice mix.
Some low points. Anyway, I'm feeling much better, just a bit tired and a bit red-eyed.
It's amazing how much it wipes you out, though. I was really surprised. I had the shivers, I had the sweats for a couple of nights. It wasn't great.
It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant. So anybody that's had it or got it at the moment or recovering, I feel your sister, brother. And so now, of course, the children, we're super spreading it around the family. So the whole of January, which normally is my big volume winter month, and it's on skis and we've got loads of snow, and I'm stuck inside. So I'm feeling a little bit blue about that. So you're going to cheer me up, Gary, and you are going to fill me with joy and tell me that it'll all be all right. And I
Well, it will be all right. I know that.
The whole year, and you know what us runners are like. The whole year's why I've been going. What's the point? I've missed all my training now. I mean, I missed 5 days of training, and it will all be all right. But we like to be dramatic, don't we?
Well, I don't. You know, I felt really sorry for myself before Valencia, and yeah, it was all right.
You're a shining example, exactly, that really, honestly, we just have to be careful, just need to be careful on the comeback. And the hour run in -10 that I've just done would be, I mean, my mum would be turning, she'd be saying, what are you doing? But the fresh air, I was kind of like, this isn't exactly ideal for post-COVID recovery run, but the mental, like this fresh air, a little bit of time away from my beloveds, going to perk me up. So balancing it out.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Now lots of tea. I'll be fine. Let's talk results, Gary. There's only one race really happening.
Yeah. They've been really greedy. They've got all the results.
They've got a ton of results, but also we've already set up, because we're just so super organized, that we're going to have a chat with the race director, aren't we, of the Spine, how they manage all these races and all these volunteers and all these checkpoints that are running for days. The logistics of it, I'm really interested to hear about. By the time this goes out, a lot of these races that aren't already finished will be finished, but we have been watching the dots with fascination, and kudos to anybody that toes this line. I mean, just he says he's looking at the pictures going, why?
Yeah, I must admit there's been, very inspiring, but nothing that's made me think, oh yeah, I'm going to enter that race. I don't fancy that. Even the sprint, 46 miles on the sprint, 18 hours cut off. So
who said I'll call that the sprint?
I know, it's crazy. But one that really stood out for me was the Challanger of 108 miles and a 60-hour cut off. So that just really tells a tale about how tough that is. But yeah, we'll go back to the sprint. Alice Kershaw took the win for the ladies in 12 hours, 16 minutes and 15 seconds. And Jonathan Price in 10 hours and 3 minutes and 3 seconds. And the Challanger, which, like I say, I think the distance, the cut-off time for that, like I say, tells a tale about how tough it is. But Kendra Wedgwood took the win. 46 hours, my goodness, 46 hours. I've never, ever been out that long. 9 minutes and 30 seconds. And Josh Wade, wow, yeah, a super fast run. 24 hours.
Incredible performance by Josh Wade.
Yeah, 24 hours, 54 minutes and 50 seconds. I wonder if he had 24-hour kind of aspirations and it just slipped at the end, or that was exactly what he wanted from the day. And then we've got the Challanger North, which is 160 miles. No female finishes as we record in the show, but yeah, definitely by Friday when this comes out, someone will have took the win there. But Simon Roberts for the men, 43 hours, 48 minutes and 17 seconds. Currently the main event, I suppose, is that fair to say, the 268 miles of the Spine, nobody has finished. But a big shout out to two guests, former guests of the show, Damien Hall and Dougie Innes, who are still out there. And hopefully when this goes out, they're finished or they're still out there battling away. But my goodness, mate, honestly. One
of my best mates, Debbie Martin Kansani, she's leading the women's race, and I keep sending her annoying WhatsApps and voice notes. And sometimes she picks them up, I know, even if she's just looking at them and they're annoying. But I can't imagine. I keep going to bed going, oh God.
Well, in my head, I'm visualizing it like, say, the Dragon's Back, or the Marathon des Sables, where you go to your camp at the end of the day. But no, not these guys.
It's a mental thing. I mean, it does intrigue me that, like, of all the long distance things I've done, it's always been workable towards the next checkpoint or whatever. It's never been longer. Probably I've never had to be self-sufficient for longer than 5 hours or so. And you see the distance between when you set off from one checkpoint and I'm not going to see, talk, or have any assistance for another 12 hours, and I've not slept for 3 nights.
Yeah.
We all know once you get into these events, you're not thinking like that, and it just becomes think it on. And so kudos. We can't wait to interview. We'll have to work down the list of finishers and just interview everybody. We also had not just a Spine race, but we had the Country to Capital, the 43-ish mile from Wendover to Paddington in London. It was won by Sam Amend in the female field in 6 hours 04. And in the men's, former guest of the show, Richard McDowell, in a stonking fast 4 hours, 57 minutes, 1 minute off the course record. So though the conditions were bad, he was still able to pull off a really fast time. Well done, Richard. Also, in big ultra running news, we thought we'd just pop this in here. The 100-mile men's world record was broken again. His own world record by Alexander Sorokin, running 6:30 mile pace for 100 miles. And he carried on to run nearly 110 miles in 12 hours. 6:30 miles. Go out, guys. Run that pace on your watch. And then Alexandra ran that for 100 miles.
Well, that's going to get you'll be under a 41-minute 10K. It's about 6:24s for a 10K, something like that. I wonder
what his nutrition strategy is if you're running that fast, but to be able to keep that fuel going in. Kudos again.
I'm curious. I've not seen his splits, but if he was metronome through the pretty much.
I think he was metronomic throughout. Metronomic throughout. Amazing. Well done, everybody. And we're thinking of you, spine racers. This week, we had a chat with Matt Clarke from HOKA. He tells us all about past, present, and new innovations from HOKA trainers. Now, you might not be a HOKA wearer. You might not be a HOKA fan. You might be looking for a new trainer. And it's really interesting because not only does he tell us specifically about the HOKA brand, but I felt also he quite educated us a little bit about trainers, what works for different terrain, why HOKA build their trainers like they do, all sorts of things like that, how they've developed. So though it might be like, you might think, an interview about trainers, that's not for me. I'm going to just fast forward to the great bits with Eddie and Gary chatting, but there's something in it for everybody. Have a listen and see what you think.
Today we've got Matt from HOKA to come on the show, and Matt is going to chat about some of the shoes within the HOKA range, and hopefully there's a shoe for every trail out there. Thanks for coming on the show, Matt. Really appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me. Cool.
Right, yeah, where are we going to start?
So I guess probably the best place to start actually is how we at HOKA, how we categorize our shoes. So that's probably a good place. So we've got 3 distinct ride experiences at HOKA. So we've got glide, fly, and sky. Now we're going to focus on sky because obviously that's kind of where, your guys' podcast sits. Sky is our trail range.
Yeah.
But what glide and fly are? Glide is your typical HOKA, soft, high cushion, marshmallow soft, maximum comfort style shoe.
Yeah.
And there are road shoes. Fly is kind of our up-tempo and racing shoes. So the midsoles are a bit firmer, a bit more responsive. They've got a bit more speed to them. And again, that's for road. And then Sky, we kind of have, it's like a catch-all term for our trail stuff. So we have fly and glide shoes within Sky. So we've got trail shoes that are maximum cushion, designed for those long training miles and ultramarathon type stuff. And then we have trail shoes that are, lighter, faster, more responsive, and geared more towards the racing and the faster stuff. Okay. But we do kind of have a shoe for pretty much every situation you might find yourself in whilst trail running at the moment. So what we'll probably do is I'll start with kind of sadly it's just been discontinued, but you might still be able to find them out and about online. It's our lightest, sort of grippiest fell type shoe. It's called the Evo Jaws. So this is it here. Sorry, it's a little bit muddy and a little bit worn, but it is worn.
Perfect. Describes the podcast perfectly.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is an incredibly lightweight shoe. I think it's 218 grams, I believe. But it's not your typical HOKA shoe. Most people, when they think HOKA, will off the bat picture a highly cushioned, big, thick midsole. That's kind of what we're known for, really. Yeah. Whereas this kind of bucks the trend and shows that we can do those other shoes and we can do them really well. So it's designed for the fells. So it's designed for those muddy, boggy, horrible conditions. But it's also designed to be able to cope with things like wet rock and sort of drier terrain as well. So most important thing on any trail shoe, probably the outsole. So we'll have a look at that first.
Yeah.
We've got Vibram Mega Grip Rubber on the bottom, which is, for those that don't know, is a fantastic sticky rubber compound. So it just glues itself onto things like wet rock, which can be pretty treacherous.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've got a shoe that's normally good for muddy stuff, as soon as you get onto anything that's wet and rocky, you just arse over it. So the great thing about this outsole is the lug shape. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's the lugs, they're not as pointed as you would get on a lot of felt shoes. Like with an Innovate or a VJ, it's like a spike almost, a rubber spike, and that pushes through the earth and gives you grip that way. These are a bit broader.
Okay.
And there's a bit more surface area. And whilst that means maybe on really, really horrible muddy stuff, this might not be quite as effective as an Innovate or a VJ.
Yeah.
On that wet rock, that surface area just gives you so much more grip. You just feel like, when I've done a lot of races up here in the lakes where you are on like rocky terrain, and if it's wet, you just feel really planted and glued. So it's a great all-rounder felt shoe in that regard.
Yeah.
The lugs are 6 mil, so decent length on them as well. So you are going to get a good amount of grip in the mud that way. Midsole, obviously this is not like a traditional Hoka, like I mentioned, but compared to most other fell shoes, this is going to feel pretty cushioned. You know, if you are used to wearing like a mud claw or a cross talon or, you know, anything from VJ really, they are very minimally cushioned, obviously, because you need that. You need the control and the proprioception with the ground to be able to get maximum grip, and, you know, on those real technical descents and things like that, you do want that.
Yeah.
What this midsole does is it strikes a balance between the two. So it has what we call ProFly midsole technology, which is basically where we have an area of the midsole that's firmer and an area that's softer.
Okay.
And we basically put them on top of each other. So you have soft on top and then firm on the bottom. And we put a little bit more foam than you'd expect to find in a fell shoe in this. So you are a little bit higher off the ground.
Yeah.
And you do have a little bit more cushion, but you still have a good amount of proprioception and control for that technical, tricky terrain.
It's not a massive midsole, though, is it? You can see there.
No, stack heights, I think, is 14 and 18. So 14 at the front, 18 at the back.
Okay.
I think it might even be a bit lower than that.
And that will be including the lugs as well, or from the lug to the, or is that?
No, I think that is just a midsole. Let me just check that actually quickly, because
Drop 3 millimeters I've got here.
Yeah, it's
just on the crampon. I'm reading in French. Millimeters at the front, and then 3 millimeter drop. And you can still get them. I just did a quick search online because I was like, I want to try this.
Yeah.
Still lots out there.
I've seen them across countries, actually. You say I think they are a good shoe this time of year.
No, I can't believe that it's now. I didn't even know about it.
So many people don't. It's quite frustrating because it's been out. It came out in end of 2018. It came out, and I moved up to the lakes 2019, and I've worn the Evo Jaws for pretty much all my fell racing and mountain racing. Yeah. And the amount of times people go, I didn't know Hoka made a fell shoe. And you go, yeah, it's been out for a while. And then sadly,
they're quite similar to the VJs, but I just find the VJs they're just after an hour, my feet are like just not got enough cushioning for my tender.
Yeah, I struggle a bit with that as well. I think I have a pair of VJs because if the
grip
really
is amazing on them, but but the grip looks really great on those.
It is. It's if it, like I say, if it's like really, depends on the terrain and the race you're doing or whatever, the way you're running. But if it's really muddy and boggy and wet, like through the winter months, and if the terrain isn't particularly rocky, the VJ is going to grip better, and an Innovate is going to grip better.
Soft. Yeah.
But the outsole on this is about sort of optimizing both kinds of terrain, and you're never going to have, if you've got a mud claw is amazing in mud. Yeah. As soon as you get onto that rocky stuff, it's not the best thing in the world. But
oh yes, my goodness, I'm glad you mentioned that, because as much as I love my mud claws, if I see rocks coming, I'm terrified.
You sit down, Gary. Just go straight on your butt.
It's quite dangerous because you come hurtling down. I think it might be around the back of Helvellyn once. I'd come flying down there, and that was fine, and then hit some rocks. and it was just like ice. It was, I know she was going to be perfect. I'm not just kind of slitting innovator here, but they were not great on the rock. But then the name is Mudclaw. It's not Rock Claw.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's really, really hard to have an outsole that is good on everything, because everything's always a compromise. The thing that is good in mud is then not good on anything else. So it's about balancing it. And I think there's, I see it.
We need so many trainers.
Yeah, you need at least. This thing I genuinely do actually believe. It's not even a joke. I think every runner should have at least 2 pairs of shoes.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 10.
Well, I've got loads more than that. But I think even if you are just, the least serious runner in the world, you should have at least 2 and rotate. Just
100%, yeah.
Yeah, with the Evo Jaws, it is sadly discontinued, but as Irina said, you still can sort of find it dotted around online. So if you do see any online and you want to try it, I would snap them up, because they probably won't be around for too much longer. There is going to be a replacement for this at some point. It probably won't be at least for the next two years or so, something like that, which is a bit sad. But yeah, fantastic, low profile, very unexpected HOKA shoe. This one.
I like that we started with a shoe that everyone is completely out.
Yeah.
And what kind of distance would you be happy running up to in that shoe then?
See, it varies. I did 3 Peaks, the 3 Peaks race last month?
Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah, start of October. And I raced that in these. So that's obviously quite a long distance race. Yeah. I mean, admittedly, the last descent, my feet were a bit battered.
Okay.
But I know people, a mate of mine, he did the George Fisher's T round.
Yeah.
In a pair of these. And he was like, my feet were fresh as daisies at the end. And that's significantly longer. So it all depends on the person. But I think the additional cushioning that you do get on this, in a race, if I wore Innovates or something, my feet would probably be battered. You'd get, quite a lot more from that. Yeah. But like, you do get a lot of people, especially up in Cumbria, who are hard as nails and just couldn't seemingly run any distance in a pair of Mudclaws. So it's fine.
Yeah. I see Mudclaws quite inappropriate parts on the fells. I'm thinking, why is it? Because I always kind of glance at people's footwear, and I think I was around kind of Great Gable area, and some guys come hurtling down, like Kirk fell, I think. With Mudclaws on, I'm thinking, why have they got Mudclaws on here? But, yeah,
I know.
Go on, HOKA, then. Let's get a revamped version of the Jaws out. That'd be great.
Yeah. This is the other thing about the shoe. The reason why it's taken extra long to get a revamp of it is it's probably the UK is the only market globally for HOKA where this shoe is popular. In the States, they just don't get it. Yeah. And you can see why, because they have these beautifully manicured trails where it's like a bed of pine needles in most places, and it feels super soft and you just don't need it.
It's a good point. Yeah, fair enough.
So next up, if we go up a little bit in terms of cushioning, but still very much a lower profile, unexpected HOKA shoe, we've got the Zinal. So
yes, that's a brand new shoe, isn't it? So
yeah. Have you run in this?
Yeah, I just started last week. Running in it.
I'd be interested to hear what you guys think of it. Because
I've not run in it. I've got one, but not for me to put it. Long story short, but
yeah.
It's much lighter. I like the cushion versus the grip a little bit more than the Challanger. But for me, I felt slightly unstable, the upper, on a lovely track. So I live in the Alps. So on a nice track, amazing. And what a change to run in a trail shoe that had that cushioning and the response. Yeah. But I did find that my foot was moving a lot more in it than perhaps, and I had to tie it up tighter. So I haven't quite got that, like the tension on the lace over the foot. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it does. Yeah, I do. I know what you mean. I was chatting with a mate of mine yesterday when we were out on a run, and we were talking about how we were actually talking about Salomon's shoe, the S-Lab Sense, that red and white one. That's fantastic shoe. You just feel like a ballet dancer dancing around. It's so agile and nimble.
Slippers, we call it.
Yeah. And part of the reason why that shoe feels as nimble as it is, it's got fantastic upper and a fantastic fit. But a big part of it is if you look at the sole of the shoe, if you imagine this is that shoe, it's incredibly narrow all the way through. Like if you were to hold that shoe up against this, it would be so much narrower. And whilst that is that kind of it's almost like a climbing shoe in that regard, and you can get that shoe into places that you would struggle to get a wider shoe, which now is a bit wider, because HOKA shoes, we make them wider deliberately to give you a more kind of stable base when your foot lands and to help dissipate the energy of your foot strike. But the downside to that is it's not necessarily as agile as some other shoes from other brands. But kind of the Zinal is the HOKA version of that S-Lab style shoe. So again, looking at the outsole, you can see it's similar in profile to that sort of S-Lab style shoe. It's 4mm lugs, and they're quite broad. They're not designed to push through mud like the Evo Jaws was. They're designed to sort of grip through surface area. So alpine trails, sort of trails up in Cumbria, there's actually a surprising amount of routes where this shoe is more than good enough to wear. It's just getting people to get their head around it. But it's Vibram Mega Grip, and it's the light base version, which is their kind of most expensive compound. So it gives you all the benefits of Mega Grip, but it's got I think it's 30% thinner. How they actually the base that they stick it onto the shoe is a lot thinner, so it saves a lot of weight. So it makes the shoe lighter.
What would the weight be for this shoe?
It's 2.3. It actually says it on the shoe now. It's 242. Sorry. So in a men's 8.5, it's 242 grams. So it's kind of at that weight where you can do a decent amount of training in it, because it's substantial enough to train in it. But if you want to race in it, it's responsive enough and fast enough that you can. Because really, the best thing about this shoe is the midsole, I think. It's the same as the Evo Jaws, and it's got Pro Fly. So it's soft on top, firm on the bottom. So basically where this kind of orange color is, that's the firm responsive foam. And it is really firm, especially for a HOKA. That sounds bad, but from a faster shoe, that's what you want, right? From like an up-tempo style shoe, you want that response and you want that kind of go. But it's tempered by this top layer of softer foam that sits directly beneath the foot, and it just gives you just enough of a kind of cushioning bed for the shoe to feel all right for those longer distances as well. So you can happily go and sort of do a trail marathon in this on quite harsh terrain, and you definitely got enough, I think, for most people.
It looks a bit similar maybe to the Speed Instinct, and the Speed Instinct 2 would be.
Yeah, funny you say that. I've got those here. So this is a very old pair of Speed Instinct, but it's essentially the remake of that is what it is. So the Speed Instinct was, I think it came out, the original one, in about
2015,
13,
oh wow,
14,
okay,
maybe. But no, you might be right. I think 2015 actually. Yeah. This is version 2 of that same shoe, but it had a fantastic midsole, really responsive, really kind of racy and up tempo, and very not what people expected from HOKA, especially at the time. But it was let down, I think, by the outsole. The outsole was a carbon rubber, so very durable, with kind of very low profile lugs, and it kind of didn't do a great job on anything, really. I found if it was dry, absolutely fantastic to do. If there was any sort of moisture, it'd be all over the place. But the idea of the Zinal was to take the sort of that firmer midsole that you have with this, and marry it with a better fitting, more technical upper, and an outsole that grips much better in those wet conditions. And I think it's a great shoe. Like, I know we mentioned the fit is not necessarily quite as technical as some of the other shoes out there, but I think from a HOKA point of view, I think this is the best fitting shoe that we make, personally. Anyway, it's got an inner kind of called a gusset, but it's basically the tongue is attached on either side, so you have it. There's like a midfoot wrap.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, similar to what Salomon do. I think they call it Sensi Fit. I think they might have changed the name of that.
It's actually helpful, like you see debris and stuff too. Also, you kind of cut down on debris going in the shoe.
Stops stuff getting in the shoe. Yeah.
And is it a universal fit? Would it say a 6.5 male be the same as a 6.5 ladies, or is it slightly different?
No. So the width would be different. So women's fit tends to be a little bit narrower than the men's. So width fittings are lettered. So the standard width for a women's shoe is a B. Standard width for a men's shoe is a D. So if you had a women's size 8 and a men's size 8, the length would be exactly the same. It would just
So
be.
if you've got wide feet as a woman, can you get a men's shoe? There's nothing else in it, but
yeah,
that's the only difference.
Yeah, if you have large enough feet as a woman to get onto the bottom of the men's size scale, which I think starts, it depends on the shoe, but it's usually around 7.5. Then if you need that extra width, you can just go for a men's one. No problem.
Might be a bit too geeky, but what's the incremental difference in width, if you like?
It's difficult because there is no like exact measurement. So for example, a D width in a Hoka is different to a D width in a Salomon or a Brooks or an Asics.
Goodness me.
It's
That's
just
like everything, Gary. If you're a lady, you understand that.
You should all go and have a big meeting somewhere and just rock, paper, scissors, and then decide which is your width, and then that's it.
Yeah. You'd think it would be kind of a universal thing, but it isn't. And it depends on various things, but you know, every company has their own last. So the molds that they use to make the uppers and things like that are all different. And you can get standard ones, but when you get to like a really technical product, like a running shoe where, you know, it's going to cost you £100+ all the lasts are custom built. They're designed to work, you know, as best as they can when they marry up with the midsole. And there's so many, you'd be amazed at like the detail and the tech that goes into the shoes these days. It's just insane.
What would you say sorry to interrupt, the durability of that shoe? Would you keep that shoe as like a racing or a fast training sort of shoe rather than an everyday? Because I sort of bought it, just got excited about, don't tell us, a new Hoka trainer, but I put it on, I was like, I love it, but I think I'm going to save this for sessions and for the shorter races rather than like my everyday.
Yeah. Your instincts are correct. So it is designed to be a faster up tempo and race day shoe. So it within our Sky range, as I talked about earlier, it fits into that fly category. So it's a Sky Fly shoe, if that makes sense. So the fly shoes, being faster and racy, are not as durable because obviously we make them as light as we can, and to make them light, you generally have to sacrifice a little bit of durability. So whereas a glide shoe, which is designed to be an everyday sort of cushion shoe, you'll probably get 500 miles out of that. Whereas a fly shoe, you're probably looking at around the 300 mark. So you could, you know, if you're prepared to, if you're happy with that little bit less durability and really like the feel of the Zinal, you could wear it every day. It's just, you'd probably have to replace it sooner than you would another model in the range. So personally, I save it for sessions, really, and racing. Yeah.
I raced the Lakeland 100 with the Speed Instincts, assuming it's and it wasn't a particularly dry day, so I had a bit of a nightmare in certain parts of it. But if it was a lovely dry day next July, would the Zinal be a good shoe for that, you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think, like I said, with everything, it always depends on what you're used to and what your foot can take. But I think absolutely. It's probably not a shoe if you're doing the Lakeland 100 for the first time.
Yeah.
Don't wear that.
Yeah.
You want something else that I'll talk about.
Because I think you need strong feet for that as well.
Yeah.
Your foot needs to be conditioned to trail, your proprioception in your ankle and stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's like, if use the analogy of cars and vehicles and stuff, it's like if you had to go on like a 20-hour drive across country, would you rather do it in the comfort of a Land Rover or in a little dune buggy with like no heating, not even like a windscreen, kind of light as you can, super grippy? Like it's sort of like that. Like this is your dune buggy, and you've got other shoes that are designed to be the Land Rover. You know, one might be faster than the other, but one's definitely going to be a lot more comfortable, a lot more pleasant. So
I think you make a good point, the Eddie. If your foot's conditioned to that kind of battering, then you're definitely more likely to get away with a shoe like that. But we'll just slip it on and expect to have a good 100 miles.
Yeah. But I mean, I should touch on why this shoe's called the Zinal, actually. So it's named after the famous mountain race Sierre Zinal, which is I think 23 miles
Yeah.
It's low 20s, but so it's a fairly long distance mountain race, and it's in the Alps in Switzerland, and it's if you Google it, you'll instantly want to go do it, because it's like the pictures you get on Google Images of that race are absolutely stunning, and some good footage of the races as well. But it's sort of designed with that sort of race in mind. So fast mountain running is what that's. Yeah. Move on to the next shoe. So it's the Torrent. Ooh. So it's got some real similarities with the Zinal, but it's also got some key differences as well. There's some really good points as to why you would go for this over a Zinal. And it might be a bit difficult to see because we have this marbling pattern on the bottom, but whereas the grip of the Zinal was designed for drier terrain and grip through surface area and friction, this is designed for slightly muddier, slightly more horrible terrain. So it's got 5mm lugs on the bottom. You might be able to see them in profile there.
Yeah.
So it's much better in that muddy stuff. Like I went out yesterday and did 2.5 hours in fairly muddy terrain in these and had no problems whatsoever. It's not a fell shoe, but on pretty horrible trails, it's going to be able to perform. Yeah. And it also does have a sticky rubber as well, so it is good on wet rock as well. It's not Vibram; it's sort of our own brand, so HOKA brand sticky rubber. Okay. But it does a pretty good job, I think, compared to the Vibram Mega Grip. Midsole, it's very similar to the Zinal in terms of its profile. So it's the yellow bit is soft. Yeah. The kind of bluey purpley bit. Sorry, the yellow bit is firm. The bluey purpley bit is soft. Yeah. Big difference is the overall responsiveness and firmness is less so than the Zinal. Like Zinal is super firm, super fast. This is kind of just like moderately firm. Yeah. If that makes sense. Still fast, and it's still got a quick turnover and it's still responsive, but it's a bit more forgiving than that Zinal in that regard. It's a bit heavier, 270 grams versus Zinal's 242. Okay. But most of that weight comes from the upper.
Yeah, so, the upper just looks much sturdier, around the ankle as well.
Yeah, it is. So it's got a bulkier heel cup than the Zinal does. So it really kind of locks the heel in and gives you a bit of extra support and stability back there. And it's got this kind of it's hard to see, but it's basically essentially it's a molded plastic, but it's like a TPU RAN. So it's a piece that runs from the heel all the way around the side of the shoe, all the way around the other side. And it essentially holds the upper together. And it does a brilliant job because, you know, when an upper goes on a shoe, it's normally always there, right? It's where that crease forms where you flex the shoe. That just prevents that from happening. Like the upper on this shoe is bomb-proof. You'll wear the midsole away. Okay. You'll wear the grip away before you ever tear through the upper.
That's always the part that goes on mine.
Sorry, Gary. It's very similar to the Scott, that upper.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it you on about the Super Track?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest difference between those two shoes in the upper would be I think the Super Track has a much thinner upper, and it's a bit more fitted. The upper on the Torrent, whilst probably as durable. Yeah, there you go.
I love it. You can bring any trainer we talk about. Yeah. One of us will have it.
I'd say this is a bit more of a this has got definitely a wider fit than a lot of other Hokas.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily feel like a really snug performance racing shoe. But the plus side of that is a lot of people use this for those longer distance miles. Yeah. They don't want the more cushion side of things. Yeah. A lot of people use this for 50Ks, 50 miles. Even 100-mile races.
Does it have that classic rocker? My Cliftons and stuff. I used to love the older Cliftons with that rocker, the Hoka style.
Yeah, every Hoka shoe has the rocker, but we do tweak it depending on what the shoe's designed to be. So this does not have a hugely aggressive rocker. You can see from the profile of the shoe, it's still there.
Okay, yeah.
But it is much less so when compared with certain other models within the range. So all the shoes I've talked about so far, being low to the ground and faster models, the rocker is not very exaggerated. Because the kind of terrain and the type of running you're designed to do in them, you want them to be more agile and you want them to be a bit lower to the ground. And you think the more you curve a shoe, the less actual rubber you have in contact with the ground at any one time, and therefore the less grip you have. So with trail, it's a bit of an interesting thing, because you obviously get the efficiency boost of a rocker if it's really aggressively curved, but then you lose a bit of efficiency because you can't get the traction. So it's a balancing act. But the Torrent is slightly less aggressively rockered than usual from us.
Is it one of your most popular trail shoes?
Yeah, definitely. I think one, because the price is great. So it's 115, which I know is still a lot of money, but compared to everything else that's designed to do a similar job on the market, this is actually it's a bargain. You get fast. You get a midsole that's fast and cushioned, does a really good job of doing both things. You've got an upper that lasts forever. You've got an outsole that's good in the mud and good on the rocks. Isn't Vibram, but is a pretty good imitation of Vibram. Frankly, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. And it's 115 quid. It's a steal, really. So I think that is why it's one of our most popular shoes, because it offers so much at a decent price.
You can't, I know £115 still is still a lot of money, but we just talked about some New Balance that I purchased. They were the wrong side of £200, Matt. So £115 sounds
pretty good in comparison. Yeah.
I didn't pay that for them, but that's what the retail price was.
I mean, the price of shoes seems to go up every year, doesn't it? Really, it's bit by bit. But
I think was it the Innovate Trail Fly 300s? They were
170 or
something like that. Yeah, really expensive. In comparison, it's good value. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. So we'll move on. So we'll go up a little bit in terms of cushioning now. And we will go to the Challanger. So these aren't my Challengers. These are actually my girlfriend's, because mine are somewhere and I can't find them. But it's basically, this is a very different shoe to the ones we've already talked about. So within that Sky category, so the trail category, I've talked about all the fly shoes so far, so the faster ones. This is in a category called ATR. So ATR stands for all-terrain running. So this is effectively a hybrid. It's designed to function on roads and trails. So it's a bit of a jack of all trades shoe. So as with anything in life, if you're a jack of all trades, you're a master of none. Which sounds like a bad
I'm just about to go, that's one of my favourite trainers.
No, everyone assumes that is a negative thing to say. But I think that's a good thing to say. If you want,
saved it.
If you're just getting into trail running and you're like, right, I just want one shoe that I can go do everything in, this is the one.
Well, that's my wife's shoe. Lisa, my wife, she must have had about 7 pairs of Challengers.
It's fantastic. Like if you're going on holiday and you've got a limited amount of space in your suitcase, you don't want to pay for hold luggage. You just want hand luggage. You can only fit 1 pair. Take this. You can go anywhere.
Eddie called me out when I went to Edinburgh and ran up Arthur's Seat in my trail flies and schooled me, said I should have took some trail shoes, and Challengers would have been perfect.
Challengers, I wear the Challengers. Like I've run 100 miles in them. I wear them to run on the trail. I wear them to run on the road. I wear them to go to the supermarket because they're so comfy. I never get to finish a run and go, I want to take these off. They're like my go-to comfy everyday training, all surface.
So part of the reason why they're that comfortable and they feel so great is they're actually built off of like the initial kind of platform. is our best-selling road shoe, the Clifton.
And I love that. It's the ultimate. The Clifton and the Challenger. To me,
you've got
I need love heart emojis on my eyes when I see them. I love it.
So we basically take a Clifton and we just change a few key things to turn it into a Challenger. So we just give it a little bit more grip on the bottom. It's not the grip on this is optimized for roads and trails. So like I said, it's designed to do both, so you have to sacrifice somewhere. So obviously it hasn't got big.
See wet rock, just move to the side of a Challenger.
So the reason it's not good on the wet rock is because the rubber on the bottom is carbon. So the advantage of carbon rubber over sticky rubber, for example, that we have in our other trail shoes, is that carbon rubber is incredibly durable. It just doesn't wear down. It'll last forever, but it is not as good on wet rock and slick surfaces because it doesn't adhere as well. So a good way to think about this is if you ever watch Formula One. I don't know if either of you two are into Formula One at all. Shaking your head. Well, in Formula One, you have different tires that you have to use in the race, and you have that they vary in they go from soft to hard, and the harder the tire, the longer it will last them in the race. The softer the tire, the better grip they have, but it might only last them 3-4 laps.
Yeah.
And that's the way to think about outsoles on shoes. So this is like the hard tire. This lasts forever, and it lasts on roads because this is designed to be able to run on roads as much as it is trails. This will last forever on anything. But when you do get on that wet rock on the trails, it isn't that good.
I just wouldn't wear them, everybody. I would it's on your nice trail, your flat pack trail, bit of mud, fine, but you can run on them all day.
Yeah.
Trail,
Yeah.
Road.
I mean, the cushioning, like you mentioned, is amazing because it's built off that road shoe platform. So it's nice and soft, it's nice and durable. It feels great. It's got a slightly more exaggerated rocker than the other trail shoes we spoke about so far. So if you are on that nicer terrain where it's, like fire roads, gravel tracks, I think your leg turnover is really good. So it feels amazing. And the upper is brilliant as well. It's basically the upper from the Clifton, but we swap the meshes out. So it's a little bit more durable. It's a little bit more kind of, it's got a little bit less stretch to it, should I say. So it holds the foot a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's not too complicated. I hope you can kind of see it. It's basically got a toe cap. Mm-hmm. It's got some strengthening around the eyelets, and then it's got a little bit more structure at the heel. Yeah. And that's it. It's a very simple shoe. And it's pretty reasonably priced. I think it's 120 or 125, I think.
HOKA have been good also with their carbon plated footwear. They're not the Rocket, I think it's about 140, isn't that something retail price?
Yeah, which I think it's got to be. It might not be the cheapest, but I think it's definitely up there in terms of a bargain
price point.
We don't have to question where HOKA trainers are made and who is making them, do we? Like we did with Nike.
No, well, with every brand, every other brand, they're all made in Asia. But the bulk of our shoes are manufactured in China and Vietnam. It's interesting because I don't know how much you guys know about the manufacturing process of shoes, but a lot of people assume that there is a HOKA factory somewhere.
Well, no, we
talked about this,
weren't we?
Right.
They're all made in the same place.
A lot of them, there was some kind of, I think, a COVID crisis in one of the factories, which meant a lot of shoes weren't, and it was all brands. I didn't realize. I think I was talking to someone from Adidas, and it was, but it wasn't just Adidas being manufactured in that factory. There was
we got affected by that. So some of our hiking products and trail product is made in that factory. So certain models of shoes were definitely affected by that. But it's difficult because on the one hand, if you manufacture shoes in the UK, for example, you'd probably, for a shoe like the Challanger, I don't know, I couldn't give you an exact figure, but you would add on a substantial amount to the price tag. And there's definitely going to be pluses to manufacturing in the UK. But when it really comes down to it, if someone had to pay 50 quid more for a shoe, it's a tough one. I know it isn't really, but a lot of people would be like, well, I don't know.
No, but it's really, I think it's really important that people, are aware of it, and that
it's a great point.
Horse might now go, oh well, I'm not buying that because it's manufactured over there, and people are it's practically the slave trade, but then they won't buy them if they're £50 more expensive.
Yeah, I think in regards to like the one thing, so HOKA is owned by, we're part of a larger company called Deckers, and Deckers, I think last week, I think was voted in the top 10 companies in terms of like corporate responsibility. I think we were voted in, I think we were like 7th globally. So Deckers as a company is fantastic to work for because they look after you and they really do actually care about sustainability, for example, working conditions. I know a lot of companies say that, but coming from within, they actually do care. Like we had a hiking boot come out last year called the Anacapa, and it was designed to be our most sustainable product that we had developed. And I had the chance to chat with the guy that had designed the shoe over in the States. And it blew my mind the amount of effort, resources, and money that was spent on getting that shoe to be as sustainable as possible. Because as much as things are moving in the right direction, we're still so far from the levels of sustainability we need.
Yeah.
Like, just for example, to get the leather to put on the boot, to get it to come from what's called a gold rated tannery. So that's basically where the cows that are used for the leather are essentially treated properly. They're looked after, they're well fed, they've got like room to roam. It's like when you go buy eggs in the supermarket, you know, if you get the free range organic eggs, it's like that.
But set up for it, don't you?
Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. But that was really difficult to actually source a tannery that was gold rated. And then you also have to do things like to find upper materials that actually are recycled in the way that they say they are is really tough as well. So that took ages. And then to find, we basically had to put things, that boot's waterproof. So it has a Gore-Tex bootie in it. Now, Gore-Tex is not good for the environment. It's a fantastic product, and it's obviously brilliant at what it's designed to do. But Gore-Tex have actually gone and developed a new version of Gore-Tex Leaf. And they've had it out for a few years now, and it's 70% recycled. So it's substantially better than the standard version. But not many people use it because it is substantially more expensive. Yeah. But we put that in the boot. So we made it it was about as sustainable a product as you can make without losing significant amounts of money on it. I think I tend to think of it, although I don't know a huge amount about the factory side, I think of it, if we are using a factory in Asia somewhere, I'm pretty confident we've checked that the people that work there are getting paid a fair wage, and that there is, significant welfare checks and things like that in place. And it's super challenging. I think it's only going to become more of a challenge as well in sort of, over the next 15, 20 years. It's going to be at the forefront of everybody's minds, I think, even more.
But this is the real kind of crux, that eventually we won't have a choice. Is if not enough is done anyway, then forget about trying to be more cost effective. We just won't have a choice about it. It's as simple as that. I
think there is some really good ideas that I've seen out there for how to sort of tackle this. There's a small American brand that they manufacture their shoes in a completely different way to every other shoe brand. Every other shoe brand, you forecast ahead of time and say you want X, you want 10,000 pairs of this, 10,000 pairs of that, and then you might have 2,000 left over, or you might have none left over. But there's always going to be a bit of wastage. Yeah, these guys take pre-orders. And they say, we have got 1,000 pre-orders. When they sell, we will then manufacture the shoes. So there is no wastage whatsoever. Yeah. And from a sustainability point of view, that's actually more effective than if you make a shoe that's significantly more recycled or, has recyclable materials in it. Yeah. So that there's definitely things you can do and ways you can go about it to improve things. But I think we'll get there. It's just going to take a bit of time. But from an eco point of view, actually, I just realised, if you want to cut down your carbon footprint and only have one pair of shoes, that one.
Yeah.
Holding up a Challenger in case anyone's listening.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I don't know what shoe it is. What shoe do I say?
Challenger, yeah.
Right, let's go on.
Having two pairs, you just get one.
Let's go on. What's next? Then? I'm trying to think what's my next shoe in the HOKA range.
Take a guess. Is it going to be the Speedgoat?
Yeah.
That's it. Hey.
That's the Speedgoat. So, this is a monster of a shoe, in a good way.
This is what my husband, he loves this Speedgoat. Oh yeah, he's got exactly that. That's orange.
Yeah. So Speedgoat is kind of our like go anywhere, do anything trail shoe. There's a bit of a backstory to the Speedgoat as well. It was the reason why it's called the Speedgoat is it's named after his American ultra runner called Karl Meltzer.
Oh yes.
So he's sort of, I think he's still got the record for the most 100-mile ultra wins of anybody. He was a very early adopter of HOKA shoes. So he was one of our first sponsored athletes back in, I think, 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And he was doing a lot of his training and racing in a shoe called the Rapa Nui, which was a high cushion trail shoe. And he sort of said, like, oh, I kind of like, can we sort of make my signature shoe? He's like, can we make my shoe and sell it? And we were like, yeah, why not? And we sort of said, what do you want? And he was like, okay, well, it needs to be cushioned enough for me to race 100 miles in. We're like, okay, we can do that. Yeah. And then he was like, it also needs to be light enough that I can race in it anywhere. And we're like, okay, it's tough, but it's doable. And he's like, oh, and I also want to be able to train in it every day. It's got to be really durable. And we were like, okay. And then he's like, oh, and also the grip has got to work anywhere on any terrain, because I'm racing, I could be racing here, there, and everywhere, because he was, you know, traveling around doing lots of different things. And we were like, all right, we'll give it a go.
Give it a go.
And admittedly, the first version of the Speedgoat, although apparently Carl loved it, I don't know why, it had some really good things and some really bad things. That the fit of it was awful. I don't know what Carl Meltzer's foot shape is.
It was like a pincer.
Yeah, it was really narrow at the front, really wide at the back.
Remember that?
I personally couldn't get on with it at all. I mean, I loved the cushioning and the way it felt.
Yeah, exactly. I had exactly. I loved the heel.
Yeah.
And then it went forward, and you went, oh.
Yeah. And it was a little bit unusually for a HOKA, unstable. So a lot of people assume that with a HOKA shoe, especially something like Speedgoat, where you're a bit higher off the ground, you have a higher stack height, that it's going to be very unstable. But Speedgoat one aside, that's not the case. Our shoes are incredibly stable because you sit down into the cushioning, you don't sit on top of it. But version 1 wasn't the most stable shoe in the world. So they went away and they sort of reworked the shoe completely, came out with Speedgoat version 2, and it hasn't changed a huge amount up to now, this is the current version of Speedgoat 4. It hasn't changed a lot because Speedgoat 2 was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. And it's gone from being a shoe that nobody could really wear very much to being a shoe that anyone can wear. And it fulfills that criteria that Carl set out. So the midsole is responsive and bouncy and soft. It does everything. Yeah. It feels amazing whether you're doing a trail 5K or a trail 100 miles. The outsole is fantastic. Sorry that this is a bit muddy, but it's got 5mm directional lugs and it's Vibram Mega Grip. So it's sticky rubber to work on those, you know, that alpine rocky terrain, but it's also pretty good in the mud. I've seen people wearing these at fell races. I personally wouldn't, but I've seen a lot of people do it. And then the upper is technical enough and durable enough and snug enough that it offers a racing fit, but then it's also got just enough room to give you that extra bit of wiggle room for your pinky toe if you're doing that longer distance stuff as well. So it really is a shoe that you can, you know, you could take to pretty much any trail, any mountain, anywhere on the planet, and it's going to do a good job for you. And it's pretty light as well. It's just a shade over 300 grams, which, you know, is obviously heavier than some of the shoes we've talked about, like the Zinal and the Evo Jaws. Yeah. But really, most people are not going to notice a substantial increase in weight, really, there.
I heard that somewhere, actually. I think when because people do obsess over weight, and it was something over 300 grams where I think there'd even been research done. That's when you see a significant
It is. There's
negative.
No performance decrease in the weight of a shoe. So weight will not affect your running performance or economy until you get above 300 grams.
Yeah, I heard that.
And that's been proven in studies now. So I think a lot of the thing with weight is it's in your head. I think, you know, if you have a pair of ultralight race flats, you're putting them on, it's what you're actually doing, I think, is you're almost telling your brain we're in race mode and these are my fast shoes.
Put your Zinals on. I'm going to put my Zinals on tomorrow for my session. I think.
Yeah, race mode. But yeah, the Speedgoat is just. I think if you're a trail runner and you wanted one shoe to do it all, this is what you'd go. Not saying when the Challanger is kind of, if you want to do a bit of everything, that's the shoe you go for. But if you are a trail runner and you just want that shoe that can do everything, Speedgoat's where it's at for sure.
And what's the geometry? And that would be the drop of the...
Drop 4.5 millimeters.
Okay.
It's a bit odd to have that 0.5 millimeter in there, but it's 4.5. I don't know why it's not 5 or 4.
Alden wanted 4.5.
Yeah, probably an exact specification. Yeah. And then stack heights. These always, because I have to remember a million of these. The stack heights always slip out of my head. I'm going to quickly look it up. I think it's off the top of my head, it's 32 at the back.
Okay.
And then like 28.5 or 27.5 at the front. But let me just check that. It's got a lot of cushioning.
Yeah.
It's the simple answer. More so than any of the other shoes we talked about.
I wonder why in the past I've bought a few pairs of Challengers over the years, and I always opted for the Challengers instead of the Speedgoat. I don't really know,
because it was my first experience with the HOKA was the Speedgoat one, where it just ripped my toes into shreds.
Yeah,
I never went back to them. I always then have just gone Challenger, but now I'm like, maybe the Speedgoat. Maybe the Speedgoat.
I still hear it. I was at an event in.
I can still see it. It was like purple and pink shoe. I can still see the bend in the toe where I used to be like, it's so comfy, but the pain.
Yeah. Oh, I did a trail demo event down in Sheffield week before last, and I had Speedgoats there for people to try, and he was like, "No, I wouldn't touch that."
Oh no!
And I was like, "Oh, why not?" And he said, "Oh, I had a pair of version ones, and they were the worst shoes ever worn." And I was like, "Oh, no, trust me, it's got so much better." And he did try them, and he loved them. But it definitely did. It didn't do us any favors, but it's just
people hear it now. Try it again.
Yeah, give it another chance. If you didn't like
that should be an advertising campaign.
Give it
another chance. People should be like.
You can get it in wide fit as well. So that's something that a lot of people have struggled with this shoe is the width of it. Even though we've improved on that over the years, some people just still think it's a touch too narrow. So Speedgoat 4, you can get in a wide as well.
And that's significant. So the weight-wise, it's a direct comparison with the Innovate Trailfly 300. Yeah. I know they've got the graphene technology, whatever that does or doesn't do. But yeah, it's considerably cheaper for same. It's probably a similar type of shoe, really.
I would put it right up against it. Yeah, and I mean, if you sort of look at what those shoes are designed to do, they're both that kind of high cushion, high grip trail shoe. And there's a few obvious differences between the shoes. Yeah, I think it's 125 versus 170. And
I'm not knocking the Innovate, but I've run in the Innovate, but I do like it.
Yeah, I know a ton of people that love that shoe. Yeah, I see it, especially up here in Cumbria. I see that new the Trailfly.
Yeah,
on so many people's feet, and everyone seems to love it. So I'm not knocking it either. But I think from a price point of view, though, I think we've beat.
It's interesting. I was curious, which is the most popular shoe that HOKA sell
on the trails?
Yeah,
it would be the Speedgoat. Yeah, it's Speedgoat followed by the Torrent.
Is it? So Speedgoat, Torrent,
well, actually, no. Challenger probably is more popular than Torrent. Actually, it would probably be Speedgoat, Challenger, then Torrent. But I think Torrent and Challenger is probably close.
Yeah,
it's probably not in it.
If you, Matt, if you were going to just wear one, which one would you choose?
I don't think I could, because
you've got to. We're going to take them all away. You've only got one.
It would have to be the Speedgoat, because I think I run on the trails and on the fells, and I think that is the shoe that you could do anything in it, and it would probably be all right. So it's got to be the Speedgoat. If I'd only have one, it would be the Speedgoat.
There you go. It's a good.
My heart tells me Evo Jaws.
Sorry.
My brain tells me Speedgoat.
Cool. I think that's a good place to end it then. Heart, Jaws, head.
Speedgoat.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Honestly, I've worn HOKA shoes for years and years and years. Various varieties for various trains, they're always in my rotation, as you said, of my 10, 15 pairs of trainers I have in the back room. But I actually never knew a lot of those details. I just wore them, just buy them, wear them for comfort. So really interesting to hear the details, the history behind them. And I look forward to putting on my fast work, my Zinals. Really exciting to have that now as well in my wardrobe of trainers.
And for transparency, we reached out to Matt. This is not a HOKA sponsored show. This is just passing on some knowledge to our listeners. So
yeah, I do work for HOKA. But,
You're not just a super
just in
fan.
case. I'm not just a mega fan. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. Thanks for giving up your time.
Thank you for having me.
Take
Nice
care.
to meet you both. Bye.
Catch up
Bye.
soon. Cheers. Bye. I enjoyed that. Maybe one for YouTube listeners if you want to pop over if it's a bit more visual.
Do you ever wear Hokas?
Oh yeah, I've lots of HOKAs in the past. I've had so many Cliftons. I've had the Tracers, Challengers. We talked about it in the show actually. Oh my goodness me, Speed Instinct. I wore them for the Lakeland 100, which wasn't probably the best shoe. Well, if it was dry conditions, then it would have been fine. Lots and lots of HOKAs. My wife Lisa, she's always in HOKAs. I have to say, this was totally no sponsorship from this shoe.
No sponsorship. Darn it. I mean, one day, Gary, someone will give us a pair of trainers.
That would normally go out as a bonus show, but there was so much stuff in there. We thought we'd put it out as a regular show. Hope you found it interesting. If you are a regular listener to the show, you'll know that we are really fortunate to have Chia Charge sponsoring the show. So we thought we would bring you a little weekly section so you could find out a bit more about Chia Charge, the company and the brand.
So I asked Tim Taylor, who is the, what should we call him, the CEO of Chia Charge Bars, a few interesting questions. Yes, boss, because I always think, like, if you invest in a product, it's always nice to know the roots of the product, especially a product like this, which is proper Yorkshire. Everything is sourced, everything's made in Yorkshire, which perhaps you didn't know. I asked him why he started off making Chia Charge bars, and he said he read a book, which I expect majority of us read, called Born to Run. Gary's nodding his head.
Yes,
he bought chia seeds off Amazon and then did nothing with them, which we've probably all done as well. I threw away a packet of old chia seeds the other day. And then he tried to make a drink out of them, decided that was not the best. And then he actually set up a company called Running Food. The drink didn't really take off. And then he thought, what is it that people want to have when they're running that we could incorporate Chia Charge with? And simply the flapjack came out of that. Then he toddled along to his local bakers in North Allerton, and they've used the same baker for 10 years. He literally says he turned up on the doorstep with a recipe, a bag of chia seeds and some Malden sea salt and said, hey, out, mister, can you make my flapjacks, please? And he's still doing that today.
Yeah. I remember I must have met Tim in 2013 at Hardmore's event. And yeah, I've had the Chia Charge drink. I've sampled I've eaten quite a few of Tim's.
I was post the drink. I never knew the drink, but
yeah, I had the drink. But yeah, I've had the drink, and I remember buying Chia Charge seeds from Tim at the London Marathon Expo. So yeah, it's fantastic they sponsor the show. But I've got quite a long relationship with Chia Charge products. I do like that kick of sea salt. I really enjoy that.
It's a great mixture, and yeah, we're ever so grateful for Chia Charge for enabling us to be on this platform and Twitter array to you for hours on end each week. What's coming up, Gary?
What's coming up tonight is more 200s and 400s. We've taken the 400s up to 8. We're doing 8 400s. So it's 4 2s, 8 4s, and then 2 4 2s to finish off. So not a huge session, but again, the speed is the key for that one. Then another one of these threshold ones, but essentially I'll have a handicap on Sunday, a trail run handicap. So I might do that instead. A couple of Zwift sessions. I'm keen to jump into a race.
Your cycling shorts for Zwift.
Apparently there's some in the loft. I need some.
Oh, that's a relief. We're all relieved. We were all worried.
It's quite painful. But yeah, that's about it really. Nothing. I don't think I've got anything major, but I'm looking forward to the handicap. You basically have to give them your 5K time and then they set you off. But I haven't got a 5K time, so I'm going to have to work it out from my Valencia time because that's the last time.
16 minutes. Pop that one down. 16 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I'll imagine that. But that's about it for me. What about yourself?
Oh, Gary, try to survive. Try to find the rainbow, trying to get better. I mean, I haven't got a huge amount of time this week with my COVID riddled family. So I'm just going to try and breathe, do what I can, and not have that little monkey on my shoulder going, you've got to do more, just try give myself a bit of grace and a bit of patience and do what I can. Lots of no hard training, I'm wearing my heart rate monitor, keep it easy, all the feels, try and get my appetite back, just try and rebuild and be kind to myself, which I'm not very good at, and do things that I perhaps wouldn't be doing. That's always a good thing, isn't it? Like little bits that you're like, oh, I never do that because I never have time. But
don't beat yourself up, Eddie. Try and give yourself a break.
I know, I'm just not very good at it. And then I just get so frustrated. So anyway, breathe. And worst things happen at sea, as my dad always says. If you want to shout out, please head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. Or if it's your birthday coming up, please do send us a DM on Facebook and we'll give you a little happy birthday. If you're lucky, Gaza will even sing you a little happy birthday. He's gagging to do it. He's gagging to do it.
That was episode 72. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Head over to, you did all that? God damn it.
Yeah, just go. That was episode 72 of Run to the Hills. I'm going to, okay? Jeez.
That was episode 72 of the Run to the Hills podcast. Thanks for listening. My name's Gary Thwaites.
I'm Eddie Sutton.
And let's run to the hills.